Iona, sitting down, who's involved with various organisations, Pure Scotland, Peace Education, Glasgow CND, Scottish CND, and John Rogers, who is currently a resident and has been for about a year of the Peace Camp.
Over a year now.
Over a year.
May last year. Seems like a lifetime ago.
Okay, so these are our speakers. We also have Brian Quayle with us, who's going to lead us in communal singing of at least one song. A copy of which I've given you. If you don't have a copy, I think I've got a few more here. It's called We Only Have to Try. Okay? And we have the Protest in Harmony Choir, led by Pauline Bradley, who are excellent, I can assure you. And they're going to sing throughout the proceedings. Right, so I'm going to start, I think, with asking John to speak. Yep, sorry, John. Bag out.
I thought what you did then, I was like, oh, I've got a minute to breathe.
Oh no, so actually, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a minute to breathe. Well, ask the choir to start singing if they're ready. Pauline, can you sing? Yeah. You want to come to the microphone or? Maybe if you want to huddle in.
It's alright.
We're protesting Harmony Glasgow. If you know the words or you pick up on the tunes, please join in with us. Some of them I'm sure you will know. So the first one is Deep Blue Sea.
Deep blue sea, baby, deep blue sea. Deep blue sea, baby, deep blue sea. Deep blue sea, baby, deep blue sea. We want peace in all the lands and o'er the deep blue sea. Sleep, my child, you are safe and sound. Sleep, my child, you are safe and sound. Sleep, my child, you are safe and sound. We want peace in all the lands and o'er the deep blue sea. Till today, war clouds hang so low. Still today, war clouds hang so low. Still today, war clouds hang so low. We want peace in all the lands and o'er the deep blue sea. Love of life's gonna turn the tide. Love of life's gonna turn the tide. Love of life's gonna turn the tide. We want peace in all the lands and o'er the deep blue sea.
And the next one is called Ban the Weapons. And you can join the chorus, which goes ban the weapons, ban the weapons, ban the weapons from the water side. Ban the weapons, ban the weapons, ban the weapons from the sea.
Keep the joy in our heart, keep on singing. I believe we will see the day when our the fields and the meadows, and we'll swim in the waters blue. We will dig in the earth all together, for one day we'll see our dreams come true. Ban the weapons, ban the weapons, ban the weapons from the waterside. Ban the weapons, ban the weapons, ban the weapons from the sea. Ban the weapons, ban the weapons from the waterside. Ban the weapons, ban the weapons, ban the weapons from the sea.
Right, now I'm going to ask John Rogers from the Faslane Peace Camp to speak to you.
Hello everyone, I'm John from the Faslane Peace Camp. Johnny Rogers, or, well, that's me anyway. So I have actually prepared something today. Normally I just wing it because that's where I live, but with such a topic that's as large as this, deserved a bit more of my attention. I am become death, destroyer of worlds. On our quest for human knowledge, a quest to better ourselves, you know, there's a lot of people here that will be alive today because of the science that we have. I heard somewhere that it's the enrichment of nitrogen that is probably 1 out of 2 people here are alive, you know, so we do have a lot to thank for modern technology, modern farming techniques, and the science, but we seem to relentlessly rush towards knowing more, and we don't always rein in what we're doing for the detriment of mankind. One day someone got up. It was a nice day, sunny day, about 6 a.m. So there's air raid sirens, but this little town, you know, this little city hadn't been really touched by the air raid sirens. So, you know, you're a bit concerned, but you're not massively concerned. There's not a lot of planes in the sky, you know, there's like one plane in the sky, so you get up and you go to work and you're thinking, well, all this is going on, but I hope that my daughter, you know, maybe I hope she gets married one day, and I hope, you know, my son gets a good education. And you go into your new office block. It's a modern office block. And you go in and think you're just going to get on with your day. And then, bang! You wake up, you don't know whether your bones are broken, you don't know what's going on, but you manage to drag yourself up. You walk outside the building, and you see it. You see this tower inferno, this light so bright that if you fire it at night, it's like it lights up the day. You walk outside, and the first thing you notice, the first thing that happens to people that aren't instantly incinerated is their fingers set on fire from the heat. Now, obviously, the building took most of the brunt of what you would have experienced yourself, and you see this devastation all around, and all you want to do is help people. You want to get back to your family. You start going through the streets, but the explosion's still not over. The glass comes into the air. Anything that's burning burns, and it actually starts sucking towards the explosion. So you start leaving. You know, you don't feel too good. You get to a hospital, and, you know, they give you some, for a couple of days you're in there, and your appetite comes back. You're one of the lucky ones. You manage to eat again. But all the people around you, their DNA is literally being ripped thread from thread. And they can feel it. You get back to your family. You know, they're okay, and you think you've gone through the worst of it. So you start helping other people. And you get back to the hospital. You don't see doctors as much as you'd like to see them. The people around you, they look like they've got sunburn on their face. Some of them, their appetites never come back. They die very quickly, still slowly and agonizingly. And over the next decades, I mean, I think there's still children being born without bones in their body. So I think what I'm trying to say here is that the people of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were kind of like me and you. And to put that in perspective, I was looking for some cities or towns that maybe have a... Does anyone here come from or know anyone from Paisley? Yeah? Well, imagine them. Gone. Every single one of them. Never to see them again in a second. That's exactly what happened with the first bomb. I think it was 140,000 after the second one. Now, what surprises me is that this is a conversation that we should all be having. Obviously, you people know about it, but I live at a peace camp. I live at a peace camp directly against nuclear weapons. I would have thought that we'd be getting negative and positive support in the buckets of it. No one's talking about this. No one is talking about this. It's perhaps one of the biggest issues at the moment. It just seems, you know, we're even upgrading the Trident systems. It seems we just can't kill each other or ourselves fast enough. You know, we've got zoonotic diseases. No one's really talking about that. We're all right now. It's over now, yeah. We've got just the environment itself that we're systematically trying to destroy. Have you ever seen, the best thing I can say, have you ever seen a Wile E. Coyote, right, where he sat on the branch, and he sat on the wrong bit of the branch, and he's chopping it? That's where we're at the moment, you know, and we're running blindfolded, like we want it to happen. And I think what I'm trying to say is that just the bare minimum of my expectations are very low, unfortunately. I'd just like this to be a conversation that we're having. Obviously, I'd like to get rid of nuclear weapons, but the fact that people just aren't talking about it, specifically on a weekend like this, there's only been 2 nuclear bombs that have ever been fired in anger, okay, and people aren't talking about it, and that is disgraceful as a species that we do that. So I do have hope, not a lot, but all we can do is keep talking about it and keep mentioning to people and keep working for it. And I know which side of history I want to be on, even if it might be a futile cause. I still want to be on the side that's fought for it, because I know that I'll have some questions on my deathbed. So we're always there at Faz Lane Peace Camp. We do this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. With visitors always welcome. We'll give you a nice cup of tea. And yeah, so just keep fighting the good fight. Thank you.
Can you hear me all right? Right. Iona's going to read the poem, which she wrote, called Minutes Silence.
Yeah, for those of you who were here last year, you'll remember we were not quite so fortunate with the weather, and it was consistently sort of bucking it down while we were here, and then as soon as we left, it really became the most horrific rainstorm. But at the time, I was feeling quite weak. We were on the first day of the International Fast for Life, beginning on the anniversary of the Hiroshima bombing, and as I later found out, I was also in the first 12 hours of having COVID. But somehow it was all quite inspiring to me, so I left the vigil and created what you're about to hear. So this is a minute's silence. Our vigil was sheltered from the thunderous clouds by the dripping limbs of the Hiroshima tree. There's something about sadness to draw out the crowds. Our annual adieu will get damp if needs be. We raised up our banner and raised up our voice as drops fell and the sky became bleaker. Remember the treaty, a rare chance to rejoice at the inviting words of an invited speaker. The sun escaped the clouds, reached down and purified us. The clouds rushed over quickly to drag her out of sight. Echoes of tortured testimonies given today to guide us. Just keep on crawling towards the light. A minute of silence and a last tear dripped free. A final kind word was exchanged with a friend. We leave, and the wind ripped the leaves from the tree to be scattered like ashes upon the West End. Undeterred, the storm seized its chance to baptize. The shaken scout for shelter, a damp doorway to hide. As translucent rain shot down from white skies, the first pangs of hunger rose up inside. How lucky we are for our rain to bring life, for every chance taken on meeting a stranger to boast of our tap water from Thurso to Fife, to never know it to bring danger. To preach glory, teach empire, and ingrain in the gut that blood must always be thicker than water. But rain can be black and thicker than blood, like the rain that came after we sanctioned a slaughter. Our rain grows heather hillsides and hand-fast carnations, ice skating on locks when it freezes. Black rain brings orphans making graveside libations with a Molotov cocktail of deathly diseases. Solidarity with victims, both living and lost, Our system is broken, you give us strength to disrupt it. Peace is a line that should never be crossed. Nuclear warfare is hell made public. Anti-nuclear family, my peaceful people's pantheon. We carry no swords nor desire to unsheath them. But with arms outstretched, our umbrellas are drawn, and we will shelter your stories beneath them. We live in a world where wars wage for profits, and our efforts can feel like a drop in the ocean. But what is a storm, if not a collective of droplets raised up by cruel winds and united in motion? What's a minute of silence to 76 years of torment? What's a fast or a placard to a storm of black rain? Wherever, whoever you are in this moment, it's never too late to pledge never again. Thank you.
That was excellent. Could you like to join together in a minute of silence, please? Yes, thank you. Holly, that thing again?
So yes, we just heard very poignant words, and wars waged for profit. And this song is about wars waged for profit. It's called The War Machine.
In western skies, the great hawks fly over blooded hills where children die, and the instruments of tyranny were brought from Britain PLC as the war machine goes round. And the war machine rolls round and round, and the poor and the weak get trampled on the ground. And from where we stand, their cries are drowned by the clinks and the clanks of the dollar and the pound as the war machine rolls round. And the prisoner sleeping where he fell will awake to one more day of hell from a US baton searing pain. His body bound by a Sheffield chain as the war machine rolls round. And the war machine rolls round and round, and the poor and the weak get trampled on the ground. And from where we stand, their cries are drowned by the clinks and the clanks of the dollar and the pound as the war machine rolls round. We've an industry that lives and thrives, making tools to shatter human lives. And our honest workers ply their skill, helping distant tyrants maim and kill as the war machine goes round. And the war machine rolls round and round, and the poor and the weak get trampled on the ground. And from where we stand, their cries are drowned by the clinks and the clanks of the dollar and the pound as the war machine rolls round. It is time, my friends, for us to say we will not sell death to earn our pay. It is time for arms exports to cease, for the world can never live in peace as the war machine rolls round. And the war machine machine rolls round and round, and the poor and the weak get trampled on the ground, and from where we stand their cries are drowned by the clinks and the clanks of the dollar and the pound as the war machine goes round.
Thank you. This next song, many of you will know that the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty has now had 51 countries have signed it, so it's international law, it's legally international law now, but we also know that the countries that hold on to nuclear weapons don't want to let them go. So this is a song I wrote when I heard that the 51st country had signed, and it's called Nuclear Weapons Are Illegal. Get them out of the ground, get them out of the sea, get them off of our land. That's the chorus, so please join in.
Nuclear weapons are now illegal. Get them out of the ground. Get them out of the sea. Get them off of our land. Nuclear weapons are now illegal. Get them out of the ground. Get them out of the sea. Get them off of our land. Nuclear weapons are now illegal, as they always should have been. We all call for a world without a war, for our children's dreams. Yes! Nuclear weapons are now illegal. Get them out of the ground. Get them out of the sea. Get them off of our land. Nuclear weapons are now illegal. Get them out of the ground. Get them out of the sea. Get them off of our land. 51 countries have signed the treaty to end those weapons of war. Monstrosities from a bygone era, not needed anymore. No! Nuclear weapons are now illegal. Get them out of the ground. Get them out of the sea. Get them off of our land. Nuclear weapons are now illegal. Get them out of the ground. Get them out of the sea. Get them off of our land. Unsustainable, dangerous monsters polluting our lands and seas, keeping us in a state of fear, not how we want to be. No. Nuclear weapons are now illegal. Get them out of the ground. Get them out of the sea. Get them off of our land. Yes. Nuclear weapons are now illegal. Get them out of the ground. Get them out of the sea. Get them off of our land. We'll remember the deaths and suffering, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Chernobyl has slain Green young women, struggles for liberty. Nuclear weapons are now illegal. Get them out of the ground. Get them out of the sea. Get them off of our land. Nuclear weapons are now illegal. Get them out of the ground. Get them out of the sea. Get them off of our land.
Thank you. I now introduce Lynn Jimison, Chair of SND, to speak to you. Thank you.
Okay. Hello. I'm very pleased to be here, of course. And I just want to begin by acknowledging that people in Glasgow actually kept the Scottish campaign for nuclear disarmament going through many lean years when, not too many other people were paying any attention to it. and to acknowledge that there's been an enormous contribution to the campaign for nuclear disarmament by the people of Glasgow, and there's a long history of Glasgow people, including Alan McKinnon, who was our chair for many years, doing excellent work here, and John Ainsley, who's also sadly no longer with us. So I want to, I've been asked to speak about current threats and reasons for hope. And I think both John and Iona, who are both incredibly capable speakers and as able as me, certainly, to speak well, have talked about the threats, I think, already. Now, there are many obvious current threats. Climate change, the war in Ukraine are probably two main sorts of events, as well as kind of the current recession and struggle that people are having. And we all know here, that if we weren't spending money on nuclear weapons and devoting energy and time to their maintenance and development, we could be doing a lot more on climate change, and people would be better off. But the war in Ukraine, I think, it's both a very immediate threat, because of, well, you probably know that Zaporizhzhia, the nuclear power plant in Ukraine, is currently in a conflict zone and has been in the news yesterday and today, and if that were to become a serious accident, it would be even worse than Chernobyl. And you probably remember that the accident at Chernobyl caused rainfall here in Scotland that was radioactive, although it's a very long way away from Ukraine. And for 20 years, there were areas of Scotland where sheep the lambs couldn't be sold because they weren't fit for human consumption, because they were eating the grass that was still contaminated. That's how long the radioactive contamination from one nuclear accident in Europe lasted here. So that aspect of the threat is very, very current, that there could be another terrible accident. And to me, what that makes clear is that our opposition to nuclear power as well as nuclear weapons is well founded. Now, the reason for that opposition from the beginning has been because of the connection between the two, that the materials from nuclear power stations have ended up in bombs, and plutonium, that is the basic ingredient of nuclear bombs, was reprocessed at Sellafield for years. We have a huge stockpile in this country, in the United Kingdom, of plutonium, of bomb-grade material, because of the civil nuclear power, the so-called civil nuclear power industry, and the two industries are mutually supporting the critical mass of science, bringing up scientists who are nuclear physicists, who are interested in developments in both, support each other. They support each other through infrastructure, and the government's commitment to nuclear power and false claims that it's green is partly because we're a nuclear weapons state still, and because of their commitment to nuclear weapons. That's why they are so committed to nuclear power, I believe. So our opposition to nuclear power is because of that deadly connection. But the conflict in Ukraine also makes clear how dangerous nuclear power always is. But it's dangerous in multiple ways, in an everyday way, not just in conflict zones. So those big external threats are always there. But I think the background threat is that we, as Iona and John have acknowledged, don't speak enough about the harms that this country, not you, but many people, and certainly many people in government, have never owned the harms of nuclear weapons. It's not acknowledged that the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki was a war crime. To kill 100,000 people in an instant is surely a war crime. But the myth that it was ending the war was what I was told in my childhood. Now, we know from historical documents that the Japanese were desperate to try to, what's the word? It's not resign. What is the word I'm looking for? To concede defeat. And were on the brink of doing that when they dropped the bomb, the first bomb. And then 3 days later, they drop another bomb. Even if you believe that myth, why would it have been necessary to drop a second bomb? It's an absolute nonsense, the story. And the harm being denied started from the very beginning. The governments of the time did not want us to know how many people were killed and what harm was immediately done. And they did enormous amounts of things to try to cover that up. They confiscated diaries. They confiscated artworks, drawings. They wouldn't let the information get out. And it took sometimes years before some of the evidence that was gathered at the time became public knowledge. And it came out not because of any official version, but because of people like the Red Cross or NGOs and brave journalists, unusual people who managed to get there and tell the story. It was officially absolutely quashed. And that denial of harms carries on to the present. So the harms of the British nuclear tests, I mean, Britain conducted 45 atmospheric tests, not as nearly as many as some other states, but the harms that were caused by those tests are utterly enormous and continue to this day. And actually, in some senses, we're all downwinders of nuclear tests. So some of the cancers that we have today here are because of atmospheric tests. There were so many done overall. The whole globe had fallout, which can be traced. It's found in in the ground still. So I heard a young woman in her 20s from Australia breaking down in tears because she had lost a child. A child was born with multiple tumours, and she was the granddaughter of somebody who was there when they did the bombing at Maralinga, when they did their test there in Australia. There are people who are still suffering in Australia and Kiribati because of British nuclear tests. We do not own that harm. So that not owning the harm is a general background threat. But actually that is also, it's also part of our opportunity and hope. Because people, if people understood better the constant legacy that there is, the everyday harms that are being caused still by uranium mining, by testing, if we could get that more publicly known, people, it will help. It really, I believe it will help. I believe most people remain decent, humane people who don't want to have been party to causing suffering to other people. So similarly with the war in Ukraine, it's caused people to be more fearful and sometimes to think that, oh, thank goodness we've got nuclear weapons. But it's also caused a lot of people to realize that it is nuclear weapons that's allowed the Russian President Putin to be as aggressive as he is and to be making the threats that he does. And that if there was a world without nuclear weapons, we'd be in a much better place. So on the one hand, you get people saying, oh, if Ukraine hadn't given up their nuclear weapons, which were never their nuclear weapons anyway, they were Soviet nuclear weapons, never completely controlled by Ukrainian people, and they never would have been able to have control over them. But people do say that. But actually, if they understand and think beyond that, what a world would be like if everybody had nuclear weapons. Would we be safer? They very quickly realised, no, of course we wouldn't be, and that actually it makes much more sense to get rid of nuclear weapons, that is the only real sane way to go, and that anything else is actually a complete and utter nonsense. It is possible to talk that through with people. And so, again, that is an opportunity, because it is much more in people's mind. Now, the singer's already mentioned, I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name. Pauline already mentioned. She called it the Non-Proliferation Treaty, but she actually meant the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, which is in the song, and which came into force in 2021. It was adopted in 2017, actually came into force in 2021. And it now actually has more signatories than in the song. 66 states have fully ratified it, and 86 states have signed it. But when it was adopted, there was about 120 states supporting it. So eventually we'll have at least that many signatures. And that is actually in the majority of the states in the world. So the majority of states in the world support a treaty that is completely banning all nuclear weapons, their production, their storage, playing host to them. And Scotland is in this unique position where we have a lot of opposition to nuclear weapons. We have a government that has stated that it wants to become an independent country, and if it did so, one of the first acts would be to sign the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. Now, if they sign that treaty, they then have a whole legal framework. It's a United Nations treaty. There's a whole legal framework to support Scotland to get rid of nuclear weapons. It's got to happen in that order. It has to be one of the first things they do. If they then want to become members of NATO, at least they'll be members of NATO as non-nuclear states who can work from within NATO to get them to give up their stupid nuclear posture and become a non-nuclear alliance instead of one that relies on nuclear weapons. But it has to be that they sign the treaty first. But we've got an opportunity there, a real opportunity to actually make a difference, because if Scotland were to sign this treaty, the Trident system, the nuclear system on the Clyde, would have to be immediately disarmed. And then, you know, you've seen all the press shenanigans about what would happen. But John Ainsley wrote a very excellent report about how Trident would literally have nowhere to go. It couldn't easily go anywhere because there's no equivalent to Coalport where the weapons are stored. Okay, so the submarines could dock elsewhere, but the weapons, there's no equivalent repository of deep, sort of safe places to store nuclear weapons on that scale other than Coalport. So maybe that would be the end of the United Kingdom's nuclear weapon system, and we would have caused a major step in nuclear disarmament. And that would be a huge achievement. And that's not an incredible thing. That is imaginable. We could maybe get there. But the basic work that we have to do is speaking about the harms and making people understand that. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
That was very good. Thank you. I read yesterday that, I think it's Antonio Guterres, the General Secretary of the United Nations, said humanity is just one miscalculation away from annihilation. Not the first person to say it, but there are a lot of reasons for that. Now we're going to welcome back the choir, and there's been a bit of a mutiny, I must say. But they have agreed. You led it. I'll give you this. I'll maybe have to bring the thing over. Don't you hear these bombs thunder?
echo like the crack of doom. While they rend the skies of thunder, for life makes this earth a tomb. Do you want your homes to tumble, rising dust towards the sky? Will you let your cities crumble? Will you see your children die? Men and women, stand together. Do not heed the men of war. Make your mind up now or never. Ban the bomb forevermore. Tell the leaders of the nations, make the whole world heed. Poison from the radiation strikes at every race and creed. Must you put mankind in danger, murder folk from distant land? Will you bring death to a stranger, of his blood on your hands? Men and women, stand together, do not heed the men of war. Make your mind up now, never, man the bomb forevermore. Shall we lay this world in ruin? Only you can make the choice. Stop and think of what you're doing. Join the march and raise your voice. Time is short, we must be speedy. We can see the hungry filled. I so home the certain needy. Shall we blast or shall we build? Men and women, stand together. Do not heed the men of war. Make your minds up, never, never. Ban the ball forevermore. I want to probably just discipline you by saying it 2 words. Can you say 2 words? No, not those 2. Well, I'll give you more than 2. These are words to us, specifically people here. Some by a man called Daniel Berrigan, who was a priest who founded the Catholic Worker. This he said. Some stood up once and sat down. Some walked a mile and walked away. Some stood up twice and sat down. I've had it, they said. Some walked 2 miles, then walked away. It's too much, they cried. Some stood and stood and stood. They were taken for fools. They were taken for being taken in. Some walked and walked and walked. They walked the earth. They walked the waters. They walked the air. Why do you stand, they were asked? And why do you walk? Because of the children, they said. And because of the heart. And because of the bread. Because the heart is a heartbeat, and the children born, and there isn't bread. Thank you. Can I sing? I love that song. Right. Walk the wind in. What's up?
I think can we just not have the mic because it's going to.
I just
do sing. Do sing, but you know, we can just throw it all off. Oh, Freedom Come All Ye, everyone. I'm sure lots of you know it by Hamish Henderson.
Rock the wind in the clear day dawning, blows the clues till stirred gouty o'er the day. But there's mair a rock wind blowing through the great glens of the world today. 'Tis a thought that would our rottens, or they rose that gang gallows fresh and gay. Tak the road and together loadings, for their ill ploys to sport and play. Nay, mair will the bonny callants match they war when a braggart snowy waves, fleeted and blackened, mourn the ships sailing in the broomy law. Broken families in lands we've herried, will curse Scotland, the brave name anywhere. Black and white, gentle and merit, as the vile powers of the mistress fair. So come all ye, and tame with freedom, never heed what the goodies grow for do. In your goose or the Benzo Adam, can find brave barley green painted through. When MacLean makes sweet springs in spring burn, all the roses and geese will turn to blue. And the yard lad beyond Nianga sings the fell gallows of the burgers do.
And this, I'm going to finish on this one, which is hopefully a little bit upbeat, and it mentions plutonium, and it's we like the flowers.
Vegetables. We hate reactors and tried and missiles. We want to live in a nuclear-free society with no plutonium, 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 no. We like the flowers, we like the vegetables. We hate reactors and tried and missiles. We want to live in a nuclear-free society with no plutonium, 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 no. We like the flowers, we like the vegetables. We hate reactors and tried and missiles. We want to live in a nuclear-free society with no plutonium, 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 no. We'll get you all singing along with us next year.
That's it. That's brilliant. Oh, well, we can do another one as well.
So another one from the fire. Yes. Okay.
Well, we do not in our name. Second half.
Oh, not in our okay.
So this one's called Not in My Name. You can join the chorus because there's a lot of repetition. It goes, you're not doing it in my name, you're not doing it in my name. So, you can try that.
We can see the forces gathering like so many times before. Working for peace, they say, preparing for war. They are claiming to be standing for democracy, but their voices would be silenced if democracy could speak. You're not doing it in my name, 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 doing it in my name. Politicians from their pedestals will talk of bravery, for noble and heroic read self-interest and greed. We're the champions of order, of that there is no doubt. But if human rights could speak, I tell you, human rights would shout. You're not doing it in my name. You're not doing it in my name. You're not doing it in my name. Doing it in my name. You're not doing it in my name. You're not doing it in my name. You're not doing it in my name. Doing it in my name. Arms dealers make their fortunes on the backs of those who died, while leaders without vision prepare for genocide. To those who claim to represent me, I can smell hypocrisy. I don't give you my permission, no, you cannot speak for me. You're not doing it in my name. You're not doing it in my name. You're not doing it in my name. Doing it in my name. You're not doing it in my name. You're not doing it in my name. You're not doing it in my name. Doing it in my name.
Yeah, this is, we only have to try it by Ian Davison, who's a teacher
Ian
in
Davison.
Glasgow in the 1960s. He started singing SND busker songs, and he co-founded the SND buskers in the 1960s, and went on to be secretary of SCND, I believe, for a while. And I like this kind of insist on it being sung almost, because although it was written in the 60s, it deals with three issues which are really very current: child poverty throughout the world, climate change, and nuclear weapons. And of course the whole message of it is we can do it if we can change things, we only have to try. And that's why I like it. It's really quite inspirational. So hopefully it will play on our PA system.
In the sky, we can save ourselves and save the world. I only have to try.
Join in, you've got the words.
We can build a peace with justice. We can turn bombs into bread. We can step back from the cliff top where the nuclear hawks have led. We can fix ourselves a future, not a missile in the sky.
We can save our fears and profiteers, so we only have to try. With our magic in the sky, we can save ourselves and save the world, and we only have to try.
We can reach our loving rhythms into every street. We
And mix the mood and the music for a million dancing feet. We can save the dying children with our pictures from the sky. We can make ourselves take action, and we only have to try.
Yes,
We are the human miracle, with our magic in the sky. We can save ourselves and save the world, and we only have to try.
yes,
We are the human miracle, with our magic in the sky. We can save ourselves and save the world, and we only have to try. Here we go.
It wouldn't be me if it wasn't a wee hitch. Oh. One score for luck. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you all for coming. hear me? Okay, I'll speak over it. This is the biggest crowd we've had for a long time, I have to say. So thank you very much. It's very encouraging that so many people came. I'd also like to thank our speakers, Lynn Jimison, Iona, John, and the wonderful protesting harmony Glasgow Choir. Thank you very much. And Brian Quayle, as always, will be helping us leading the singing. Neil is going to record, film it, and hopefully you'll be able to see it somewhere. And I can promise I have nothing to do with it whatsoever. Thank you.